What are the 7 unnatural wonders of Westeros and Essos? The 7 most magical and mysterious places in the world. Let's take a look. Hi everyone, this is Robert. Welcome to In Deep Geek. On this channel we cover A Song of Ice and Fire, The Lord of the Rings and other great fantasy books and TV shows like The Witcher in nerdy detail. Welcome. This video is another collaboration with the wonderful History of Westeros. Please do check out their YouTube channel and podcast. There's a link in the description. We often talk about the 7 natural wonders of the world, but in the world of A Song of Ice and Fire, magic is not abnormal, especially in the current era. Yet, even knowing that, there are some places that seemingly defy the laws of nature, places in which the seemingly impossible has manifested, and in some places continues to. Places even the characters in A Song of Ice and Fire are wary of. In this video, we'll take a look at those unnatural wonders. And let's begin in Westeros before working our way east. The largest lake in Westeros, the God's Eye, lies at the very centre of the continent, and at the very centre of the God's Eye Lake lies the Isle of Faces. It's the site where, in ages past, the first men and children of the forest met to negotiate the end of their wars, as we're told. The wisest of both races prevailed, and the chief heroes and rulers of both sides met upon the Isle in the God's Eye to form the pact. Giving up all the lands of Westeros save for the deepest forests, the children won from the first men the promise that they would no longer cut down the weirwoods. All the weirwoods on the isle on which the pact was forged were then carved with faces so that the gods could witness the pact, and the Order of Green Men was made afterward to tend to the weirwoods and protect the isle. Like an enormous magical moat, the God's Eye protects the last refuge of the old gods in the south, and the Green Men oversee that protection. We're told that whenever someone tries to go to the Isle of Faces, natural elements like birds or wind prevent their approach. By this means do the old gods protect their secrets. Yet a few exceptions are made. Howland Reed was welcomed there, and Fire and Blood tells us that Adam Velaryon also landed there on his dragon to consult with the Green Men. What was said or discussed, we can only imagine. So, in neither case do we have information about what happened. A mystery. Staying in Westeros, but far past the wall, we have Hardhome. This isn't just an episode of the Game of Thrones TV show, it was the closest the wildlings ever got to a proper city or large town. But what we read in the world of Ice and Fire is this. Hardhome had been halfway toward becoming a town, the only true town north of the wall, until the night 600 years ago when hell had swallowed it. Its people had been carried off into slavery or slaughtered for meat, depending on which version of the tale you believed, their homes and halls consumed in a conflagration that burned so hot that watchers on the wall far to the south had thought the sun was rising in the north. Afterward, ashes rained down on haunted forest and shivering sea alike for almost half a year. Traders reported finding only nightmarish devastation where Hardhome had stood, a landscape of charred trees and burned bones, waters choked with swollen corpses, blood-chilling shrieks echoing from the cave mouths that pocked the great cliff that loomed above the settlement. Perhaps the conflagration was caused by natural means, but that seems unlikely, and the shrieking caves certainly seem to suggest something more unnatural. To be honest, it's easier to rule things out than come to a firm conclusion on what actually did happen. And then we have hints about what will happen in the near future of the story. A mysterious character named Mother Mole has led thousands of wildlings there, and the hints are that they will be trapped there by the others. Melisandre has a vision of a great grey cliff where fires burned inside 100 caves, which ends with an impossible cold snuffing out the fires, and then skulls. She knows the skulls mean death. To a Red Priestess, fire defeated by ice is grim indeed. To the others, it means new soldiers for the army of the dead. Hardhome may prove to be their prime recruiting ground, and not just for human recruits. 3. The Sorrows. Let's cross the sea to the largest river in the known world, the Roine, and the section now known as the Sorrows, but in ages past was the famed city of Troy-Rain. When war broke out with the freehold of Valyria, Prince Garin of Troy-Rain led the alliance of the Rhoynar city-states. The army, armed with archers and water wizards, were able to destroy some Valyrian towns, even defeating some dragons along the way. Volantis feared they were next and called for help. Valeria responded with 300 dragons, an amount unimaginably beyond the capacity of the Rhoynar to defeat. His army was destroyed, and Garin the Great was made to watch as the survivors were put to the sword. They placed him in a gilded cage, and again forced him to watch as they marched north to Sarmel, took the city, and enslaved it. Next was Prince Garin's own city of Troirain, the festival city, a wonder for its beauty, and now a flooded ruin. We're told, the prince, it was said, called down a curse upon the conquerors, entreating Mother Rhoyne to avenge her children. And so, that very night, the Rhoyne flooded out of season, and with a greater force than was known in living memory. A thick fog full of evil humours fell, and the Valyrian conquerors began to die of greyscale. Since that night, the fog has remained, and greyscale infections continue unabated. The end state of the disease is the victim becoming a stone man, crazed and violent and infectious. I've done a whole other video on grayscale if you want more information about that. And it's not just grayscale there. Tyrion and the crew of the Shy Maid encounter something very magically disconcerting when their boat seems to teleport or time travel back up the river at one point. Again, I did a whole video on that if you're interested. The Sorrows, Grayscale, the Stone Men, and the tale of Garin the Great are all described in the World of Ice and Fire, but there's no mention of this phenomenon, here or anywhere else. 4. Valyria. Not to be done in the unnatural ruins category, next on the list are the very same first victims of Grayscale and destroyers of the Rhoynish civilization, Old Valyria. The Valyrian Freehold was a place of high magic. Over the eons they exploited the 14 Flames, the heart of their power, not only due to such sorceries, but because dragons like living around volcanic heat. There are many theories as to what caused the doom. Again, I've done a video. To be honest, I've done videos in more detail on a lot of these places, but I'll spare you and stop plugging them now. But the end result of whatever happened is a blasted hellscape with plenty of unexplained phenomena, remnants of Valyrian sorcery perhaps. Euron claims otherwise, but there are no known successful expeditions to post-Doom Valyria. Tyrion's uncle Geryon may have been the most recent attempt, and there are plenty of other examples of people, fleets, armies, and even dragons going there and not returning. The Sea of Sighs was formed by the Cataclysm, an inland body of water coloured blood red. On its northern shores resides Mantaris, the closest city to Valyria that survived. It is known as a city of monsters, apparently thanks to a high instance of unpleasant conditions such as people born with 2 heads. But there's little doubt as to which recorded phenomena of now infernal Valyria is the most unsettling. The tale of Aeria Targaryen is a match for any fantasy horror piece. Balerion flew Aeria to Valyria against her will for unknown draconic reasons. They returned in terrible shape. In addition to other half-healed wounds, Balerion had a deep gash nearly 9 feet long, caused by a creature of some sort that we can't possibly identify, but is undoubtedly huge and possibly related to Aeria's affliction, which was something far worse. Grand Maester Bennifer and Septon Bath described what they saw as best they could. The phrases worms with faces and snakes with hands were included. Thankfully, these monsters died upon contact with ice, afflicting no one else. It is said this incident led to Septon Bath's career as a researcher of dragon lore, and quite a few nightmares. 5. Yen. Featuring a region called the Green Hell, Sothorios is a nightmare of a different sort. Jungle. There have been attempts to settle there over the eons, but neither Valyria nor the Giscari Empire could establish themselves in the region for long, despite all their resources. Yet a civilization long before either of them built an entire city, a city that has not been reclaimed by the jungle like all the others. It is strategically placed where the river Zamoyos splits into a river delta before emptying into the oceans beyond. This is what we read in the World of Ice and Fire. Maesters and other scholars alike have puzzled over the greatest of the enigmas of Sothorios, the ancient city of Yen. A ruin older than time, built of oily black stone, in massive blocks so heavy that it would require a dozen elephants to move them. Yen has remained a desolation for many thousands of years. Yet the jungle that surrounds it on every side has scarce touched it. A city so evil that even the jungle will not enter, Nymeria is supposed to have said when she laid eyes upon it, if the tales are true. Every attempt to rebuild or resettle Yen has ended in horror. These building blocks of Yen appear to be similar, if not effectively identical, to the ones in Ashai and elsewhere, though we haven't seen it directly through anyone's POV in the books, so we can't be sure. We read of one attempt to resettle Yen in the story of Princess Nymeria, fleeing with her people from the River Royne before she reaches Dawn. The first place they try to establish themselves is Sothorios. Many of the Roynar settled with Nymeria in the ruins of Zamitar, a fallen Giscari colony, while another group made the trek upriver to attempt a settlement at Yen. At one point, Nymeria sent messengers to Yen, and they found it completely empty, with no sign of the people whatsoever. Though disease is a terrible problem in Sothorios, that can't be the culprit here. It could very well be the brindled men. Though some are traders, these native Sothorii are said to worship dark gods with obscene rites, engage in cannibalism and eating of the dead, including their own. They are bipedal, with brown and white skin, with huge muscles, long arms, square teeth and snouts, allegedly. The brindled men may account for the depopulation of Yen, but they don't raid the nearby Basilisk Isles. However, another mysterious and dangerous race did, or still does, which brings us to 6. The Toadstone. While Yen is a city composed of huge, oily black stones using the Cyclopean method, the Toadstone seems to be carved from a single block. Again, we read in The World of Ice and Fire, "On the Isle of Toads can be found an ancient idol, a greasy black stone crudely carved into the semblance of a gigantic toad of malignant aspect, some 40 feet high. The people of this isle are believed by some to be descended from those who carved the Toadstone, for there is an unpleasant fish-like aspect to their faces, and many have webbed hands and feet. If so, they are the sole surviving remnant of this forgotten race." Though the description of these islanders is sparse, it is very telling. There are numerous tales of such races, and these legends often, though by no means always, overlap with locations where the strange black stone is found. This is among the best available evidence for the existence of the Deep Ones, a race of underwater beings inspired by H.P. Lovecraft. They may account for some of the tales about Merlings, or even the drowned god, as has been speculated by maesters. Notably, the sea stone chair seems to be carved from another single huge block of greasy black stone. The Deep Ones supposedly mate with human women, which would account for the fish-like features found in some peoples of the known world, such as House Cod of the Ironborn. The people of the Thousand Isles to the far north of Essos have greenish skin and live in fear of the sea. They are deathly afraid of even setting foot in it, due to a fear of an undersea race. Islanders who won't touch water. Their terror is great indeed. They are known to sacrifice sailors to fish-head gods featured on stone idols visible only at low tide, presumably to appease them. Larathi legends claim that the race of maze-makers were wiped out by creatures from the sea. And closest to Westeros, webbed hands and feet are a recurring feature among the Sister Men. Davos notices it on Lord Godric Borrell when he's at the Isle on Sweet Sister. Is it a harmless genetic quirk, or does this imply an ancient unnatural ancestry? The fishy people living on the Isle of Toads could be blood relatives to the Deep Ones who worship some of the same gods, or the Black Stone could be evidence of a different race overcome by the Deep Ones. Neither answer, or any other we might imagine, is mundane. Regardless, the Toadstone is still worshipped by the locals, perhaps to keep the depths at bay, or, disturbingly, due to a direct connection with an undersea race. It may even be proof that the people of the Isle of Toads worship the Deep Ones themselves, reminiscent of the theory that the drowned god originates from tales of the Deep Ones. Finally, 7. Ashai. Though seemingly made of the same greasy black stone as Yen, Ashai is far larger, a port residing on a mountainous peninsula where the Ash River empties into the Jade Sea, bigger than King's Landing, Old Town, Volantis and Karth put together, we're told. So once it presumably was thriving with a massive population. Nowadays, however, although it remains a significant trading destination because of its wealth, it is less than 10% full, for reasons that will become obvious. To start with, there is little in the way of trustworthy food or water. The Ash River is not safe to drink from, nor are the fish found within it safe to eat, and they are a weird phosphorescent yellow colour. Few animals and no children exist in Ashai, suggesting some kind of persistent health hazard, presumably of supernatural origin. The greasy black stone it is built from is said to drink the light, making the entire massive city gloomy. Those residents you might see hide their identities behind lacquered masks, and the whole city is a hub for those who wish to pursue arcane powers and knowledge. Nothing is banned, so everything is potentially practiced behind those inky walls. And beyond the city walls lies the shadow and ghost grass, but those are for another video. The questions are many. Why the shadow? Who built this massive city? Why and how? Why do food and animals and children not survive? What ancient secrets lie there waiting to be discovered by the brave? The Ashai believe that the city has stood there since the beginning of time, and it will stand there until the end. And who's to say they are wrong? And that's the 7 I have chosen. Would you have picked any others? Let me know in the comments below. Did you know that all my videos on this channel are now being uploaded to Apple Podcasts, as well as other places like Spotify? So if you find it easier to watch them there, search for In Deep Geek there. And leave a nice review if you want. It all helps. Thank you. If you'd like to see more A Song of Ice and Fire videos, please click on the link on the left of your screen. Or if you'd like to support this channel, thank you. There's a link to my Patreon page on the right of your screen. That's all for this time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon.